Hello and welcome to Do It Yourself Musician, and welcome to part 4 of my pedal board makeover series. I was only going to do 3 parts of this, but there's just so much that I have to say that it's running into part 4 now. It's going to be like all 4 parts will be probably 2 hours or more together. I'll link in the notes below parts 1, 2, and 3. But here in part 4, we're going to start with looking at audio cables for pedal boards, and then we're actually going to actually put our pedals on finally. Make a pedal board out of this. I can't wait. I'm tired of not having my pedal board situation set up. So, all right, here we go. I want to spend just a minute here talking about cables for wiring up a pedal board. My favorite way to do it is with generally with a cable just like this. And this is some nice pancake plugs soldered to a nice thin gauge, high quality cable. I prefer this over all other methods. It's much better than a solderless cable is to solder your own cables. However, on this particular pedal board build, I am going to use a solderless cable, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. I want to talk about these soldered ones first. My favorite sort of cable recipe, if you will, for wiring pedal boards is to use either the GLS pancake or the Switchcraft pancake, and I like to wire that to this nice thin gauge cable. And this cable that I like to use is from Bestronix Pro Audio, which is btpa.com. And the number of this cable is CA-0678 cable, and it's very similar to a Mogami 2319, except it has better capacitance per foot. It's just a much better cable, I think. It's a very transparent cable, I would say. If you believe in that sort of thing, it definitely doesn't have any kind of loading on tone at all. I mean, that's why one of the reasons I like to use it, especially for a loop switcher setup or something where there's a lot of cabling. I would definitely use this CA0678 over anything else, because you're not going to lose anything. So yeah, I like to wire that with the GLS or Switchcraft. And you can get the GLS pancakes from Orange County Speaker, which is speakerrepair.com. For a standard gauge cable, I like to use the CA0393 from Bestronix Pro Audio, which is an equivalent to Mogami 2524. If you prefer Mogami, by all means use the 2319 for your pedal board and the 2524s if you want. That's a bigger gauge cable, but you can still use that on a pedal board for sure. I like to stick to about this length. This is right around the 4-inch cable length, and I would make all of my short cables that length. This would be your shortest length is basically going to be linking pedal to pedal, and 4 inches is just about right for this small gauge cable. You can make stuff shorter, but I find it just gets way too bound up, and it tends to not want to sit right when they get this short. And plus, it becomes less usable on other pedal boards or in other positions on the board if you change things around when you get shorter than 4 inches. So I tend to just stick to a real basic 4-inch patch cable. So yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is that you can make 2 kinds of cables basically when you're making your own cables, and that is a U cable, which is what I call this kind of setup, is where your connectors are going the same way, or you can make what I call a Z cable, which is where your connectors are going opposite of each other. U cable would go between pedals like that, and the Z cable would basically go from say like a Boss pedal to a Rat, or from side mount to top mount jack type of setup. And whether you're soldering or using solderless, you need to be aware of this. You have to mount these connectors in this Z fashion or in this U fashion. Don't build a a U cable, then spin it on itself to try to make it into a Z cable. You can if it's long enough. You can get some turn out of it, but you are stressing the cable, and you're most likely to break actually to break the shield where you soldered it at. Now, on my particular pedal board that I'm building in this series of videos, I'm going to use the Lava Tightrope solderless kits on it. And like I said, I much prefer to use a soldered cable, but on these have been out for a few years. These sort of type of solderless cable that the conductor, the center conductor of the cable, it screws into this plug, and that method of attaching a cable in a solderless system is far better than the old solderless thing where you had there was sort of a needle in the plug that had to push into the center conductor and make contact, which of course people always miss with that thing. They either miss it completely or they wind up stabbing into the black conductive material between the inner conductor and the shield, causing a bad connection. These, however, seem like they'll make a much better connection. These, of course, are very similar to the Evidence Audio SIS cables, and I have wired a board with those before, and they were excellent. So I wanted to try the Lava version of this. Plus, these were on sale recently, and so I just thought I'd give it a try and see how it went. I'm not going to really do an assembly instruction in this video because this video is getting far too long, but I will do a separate video later where I investigate how these things went together, and I hope they're going to be fine. You see a lot of negative things written about them online, but we'll see how it works out, and hopefully they'll be good. Okay. All right, here we go. We're back on our brand new pedal board now, and what I've done is I've done one final placement of all of my pedals with my jacks installed, so I can get kind of a proper look at where things are going to go. If you remember from what we started with in the first video till now, you can see this has changed a little bit. I originally had these PP2 pluses over here, and I had this DoD on top of one of them, and on the other one I had my Minnie Mouse controller, which is here, and you have to be careful putting things right on to pedal powers because they do emit some EMI. Typically when you get a pedal right over them, that's when you're going to have trouble. I didn't test it out in this case. I just decided to go ahead and move it over and put the FX10 here because I don't really need to reach the FX10. It's just sort of an always on pedal. In fact, in the way this whole rig is working out, that FX10 might not even be needed because I'm getting really good output from my rack effects because I've done a lot of work on getting those running right. Generally, I just use that to boost the rack to where it matches in level with the straight signal from the pedal board, so I don't get a level drop. But that's what that's for, anyways. Yeah, and the MIDI mouse I'll still set here like that, which is going to be a fine place for it because, like I said, I don't usually change patches on the rack very much. I just would start a song with the same patch in it typically. What this also does is I've got something that I'm going to show you later in another video. I've got a molten voltage osmosis MIDI mapper and filter pedal that I'm going to put actually in my rack, and what that does is it greatly expands the capability of a simple MIDI controller like this. It'll take a patch change that comes out of the MIDI mouse and it'll send multiple patch changes on multiple channels and controller changes and all this stuff. But I'm going to actually program that and put it into my rack to control the 2 or 3 effects that I'll have in there at any one time. And Molten Voltage has this cool sort of LED screen that you can make display patch names or whatever you want. And I might actually wind up putting that there on top of this pedal power. It's pretty cool. It's like kind of a little thing that you could actually, you could put song names in it, and when you patch change, you could just see what your song names were. Anyways, that's that'll be later, probably another video on that stuff. But I've got things laid out here, and I've got like this is pretty much their final positions. At this point, you want to lay things out exactly where they're going to go because you're about to stick them down. If you remember, in my arrangement, I'm going to have a riser that runs along here for the second row. I haven't made that riser yet, but that's still that's the layout of it. I'm actually going to start by putting the front row down. When I get that locked in, then I'm going to figure out exactly how the riser is going to go, because I'm thinking about I'm going to custom cut the riser to it'll be thin and then increase to the width of the boss pedals and then go back smaller. It's probably what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cut it real nice to fit real nice in there. At this point, you'll notice that I haven't talked a lot about DC cabling at all, because I do that as the last thing. I start with my signal cabling first. I get my pedals placed and all of my signal cabling done, and then I do DC power routing. But you'll need to have a game plan for that now, how you're going to run that power. I've decided that originally on this board I didn't want to run under my risers or anything, but I think I'm just going to go ahead, actually, because of where I've got my power supplies now, that I'm going to run probably out of the left side PP2 plus here, and I'm just going to come down under my riser this way, meet with this pedal here, and then go this way, splitting off power for the front row. And I'll probably just go right under the riser. I mean, I'm actually not really worried about that, and I'm going to show you why I want to get down there. Because what I tend to do is I really like sticking with the factory pedal power DC cables when I'm doing this. Sometimes I'll put custom ends on these or whatever, but you're inviting a lot of trouble when you do that if you don't know how to solder really cleanly and make really, really good connections. And like I said, I'll get into that later. So yeah, I'm actually not too worried about running things under the riser with these, because I know they're probably not going to fail the cables themselves, because they're going to be the factory ones. I'm not going to actually put any custom ends on them. And more likely it'd be that a pedal went out, or the pedal power too. But man, I mean, that stuff is rare. It doesn't happen very often. So it's You know, and if it did fail like big time when you were playing, there's not a lot you can do about it. You're probably just gonna have to bypass your board anyways and just play straight until somebody can figure it out for you. Anyways, so yeah, here's everything set out. This is gonna be the position. There's gonna be a riser that I'll make in a little while. This pedal is probably gonna go up onto a short riser. I'll have to figure out exactly how that's going to go when I get to it, but first I'm gonna start by I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick down this front row at least enough till I get to here and figure out what I'm doing with that. All right, I've got my dual lock and my scissors. We're gonna start with this Boss pedal. Typically on square pedals, I'm gonna do a 1-inch square in each corner. On a heavier pedal, you might do strips like this. This actually is not a heavier pedal, but on this Boss, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a little bit longer strips, just for the virtue of the fact that I've got to stick to rubber, and I've got to stick to rubber that's textured and doesn't have a lot of surface. So basically I'm going to do strips across here and here, and I should be fine doing that. Actually, I'll be okay, because I don't think I need to run any signal cable or power cable underneath. If I did, I would try to leave a little bit of a opening in the dual lock, so just to route the cable. So I always kind of keep that in mind, is how you're if you need to route any power or signal under your pedals or whatnot. And basically at this point you just want to find just eyeball it. There's no reason to measure anything. Just eyeball it, the dual lock, with the intention of just sitting a bit shy. See, I'm just a bit shy of the edge there. That's what you want to be, so the dual lock doesn't, stick out and look bad. So just cut yourself a piece that looks good. Try to cut your end straight, and then just cut the rest of your pieces off here. Just use that first piece as a guide. Now that you got your 4 pieces cut to length for your pedal, go ahead and mate them together and do it accurately. Dual lock, by its nature, it sort of has an offset to allow the mushroom heads to engage. It's going to have like a bit of an offset to the left, right, top, or bottom. But go ahead and lock those together. There you go. A little bit of a raggedy end there, so I'm going to trim that. Alright, so what I have here is I've got a top and a bottom set up, and since I'm sticking to rubber, I'm going to peel off one side of the dual lock here, and I'm going to use my heat gun to heat this adhesive up a little bit on the dual lock. Typically with dual lock, I generally only do that with when I'm sticking it to rubber. Just heat that up a bit and then place it where you want it, centered up and just shy of the edges so it doesn't stick out. And the heat gun really helps it stick to rubber. Just give it a good hard press to get it seated on there. Alright, and now you're going to be ready to stick this to the board. So remove your protective backing here. Come on there. Alright. And then get it lined up really good before you stick it down. I've got the edge of the pedal board to line me up here, so there's really no excuse to get this crooked. Yeah, so line it up good and press it down. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so going down the line, once you get your first pedal set, you've kind of got your row here started, and everything's got to play off that. So you need to look at your gaps and things to make sure that you've actually got enough to get things positioned where you want them. Okay. And what I do to help me along is I take something as a marker. A little bit of this painter's tape will work fine, and I mark the side of the pedal as best I can, the position of the pedal, so I know that that's sort of the line that I've got to hit to give it the gap I need. Because I'm probably going to run from the PP2 Plus with the power, come down underneath this pedal, then go this way underneath all the pedals. Well, I won't be able to do that. I'll be blocked by that. So I'm going to remove this dual lock, which has been on here for probably a year and a half, I think. I just pull it back with my finger like that to get a little edge, and then I grab it with some pliers. Just kind of carefully try to pull it off there. Just kind of go easy. And you can see how good that's stuck on there. And there's a tiny little bit of residue, but yeah, I mean, this stuff, it comes off clean. Like I said, this has been on there like a year and a half, and it does nothing to your pedals. And you can see how strong it's still stuck on there. I mean, it's like really, really on there. It's good stuff. And like I said before, a little Ballistol on a cloth. It's clean any kind of residue gunk off the bottom of this. Ballistol can be a little oily, so you want to make sure that you get it all off there. But yeah, that's a clean, good finish for putting our dual lock on. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to do 4 1-inch squares. Be plenty to stick this pedal down, and it'll also allow me to put cables underneath it. Okay, so here I have my 4 pieces of dual lock for my vibrato pedal here, and I want you to just kind of take a look at what I did there. I kind of like to, I cut squares out, 1-inch squares first, but then I cut just a little relief out of them so they will be out of the way of the screw that holds the bottom of the pedal on. And what I'll do is I'll mate that to just a regular square piece that hasn't been cut, which will just go down onto the pedal board. So you'll have a full square on the pedal board, and you'll have this trimmed square on the pedal itself. So I've already cleaned the base of this pedal, so I'll go ahead and stick these on there. And like I said, I've had really good luck with the dual lock on the bottom of these smooth pedals, so I'm not even going to use a heat gun on it. Just gonna, you can see, like, you can see when it's really stuck down. You see how you can see that blue right there, and then if you can see that I'm able to stick it down real good, and that's how you can tell that you've really got good adhesion on the pedal. And again, yeah, you know, notice that I set it in about 1/8 of an inch or so from the edge, so I won't see it. All right, now that I've got all 4 squares on, I'm going to peel the backs off these dual lock pieces. Now I'm going to use my heat gun. Heat these up a little bit. Also be sure when you're using a heat gun to not heat any sensitive pedals up too much, or you know, you could damage it easily with the heat gun if you got too crazy with it. So yeah, I'm going to put this down straight as I can, and again, I've got my piece of tape over here for my line. On it. Yep. There it is. Just like to push it down. All right. So I'll line this one up with my tape. Looks pretty good. Just press it down real good. And if you do stick it down and you get the alignment off, you can sometimes pull it back up and reset it, just reheat it with the heat gun and reset it on there. If it gets too stuck and it's crooked, you'll just have to pull it up and start with some fresh dual lock on it. Okay, so I'm having a look at this AB/tuner switch pedal here, and I think I want to raise this up a little bit, and the reason being is that if you can see the Polytune here in the back where the jack on it is, that input is coming from this output, which is directly next to it. So I've got two choices here. I can make a cable that's a little long and go out and loop back up this way. One thing I won't do is I won't make a cable that just goes right between them, like a little 1/2 inch long cable. That's silly. It's not worth doing that. I would rather make a little bit longer cable and just sort of loop it back on itself. The other thing I can do is I can rise this pedal up a little bit, and that will do two things for me. It'll give me a longer distance between these two jacks, and make the cable lay in there a little bit better. But it'll also allow me more room to position these pedals, this way, because now this pedal's raised. I can get over this jack instead of bumping into it. I'll be over it. So I'm just looking at my different options here. I don't want to raise this pedal too high though. So what I want to look at is maybe a 1/2 inch riser, but I'm going to put some pieces of, these are connected dual locks right here, because remember I said they've got a 1/4 inch of height to them, so you need to account for that. So I'm going to put those in there, and I'm going to just put this piece of scrap 1/2 inch plywood, and then I'm going to put my pedal back on there like so, and kind of look at the height here. Now I can say that that's about the maximum height I would want it. This switch is already above the boss here. It's not bad though, actually, like that. If I use the regular dual lock, it's gonna be more like this. It's gonna raise this pedal even higher. But I could get this same height by using a 1/2 inch riser, plywood for a 1/2 inch riser, and then use the low profile dual lock on the bottom of it and the top of it. I've already got low profile on this pedal. That should give me fairly good, reasonable height without getting ridiculously tall. If I had a piece of 1/4 inch plywood, I might even make a riser out of that, but I don't have any, so and it's pretty flimsy too, so I guess I'm just gonna actually make a 1/2 inch riser and use the low profile dual lock, so I'll do that. Alright, here's a little 1/2 inch plywood riser, and like I said before, it's got the ABS plastic laminated to it. Edges are painted black so it blends in with the board. Let's see what we get. It's sized exactly to the bottom of this pedal. So if it goes there, and the dual lock is gonna give it like maybe that much more, not a lot. I think it's gonna be pretty good. Right there, and I will use the low profile dual lock on this one. I'll use it on the bottom of this to stick it to the board, and also I've already actually got it on this pedal. I'll just put some on here and put it mounted onto the riser. That way, like I said, I don't get it rose up too high because of the thickness of the regular dual lock. So All right, I've got the whole front row fixed down with dual lock now, up until the polytune. So it's time to look at my middle row. And on this middle row, I'm going to do a riser. And so I've laid out pretty much the exact positions of the pedals now. I'm going to keep these in line like this. And what I'm doing is I'm basically spread out as far as being 1 inch shy of the rail here. And the reason is so I can get one of these zip tie mounts to fit in there in case I run cable around that outside. So I want to stay an inch away from that outside rail. So I need to make a riser that's going to be an inch shy of my U-channel surround on both sides. I think, if I can remember, I don't remember exactly what I was inside of that. Let's see. Yeah, I'm 21 inches from inside the U-channel to inside of the U-channel. So I'll build maybe an inch shy on each side. So I need a 19-inch wide riser. And the depth of it is just going to be what a Boss pedal is, because that's my biggest pedal. So I'll probably go 4 3/4 inches on the depth. So 19 by 4 3/4. I'll cut that shape first, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a notch into it. So it fits perfectly around this, and then I'm probably going to make it fit the Layla little looper perfectly also. So I'm going to kind of have customize it a little bit to fit in there, and it'll be built like this type of thing. It's going to be 1/2 inch plywood on the top, and then I'm going to have these 1/2 inch sort of feet on it to raise it up a total of an inch. And I'll probably do something where I have a foot on each side and maybe one in the middle. That's probably enough, because this stuff is pretty strong. It can withstand that span without sagging or anything. Okay, I've got the riser cut out and fit in here, and I'm just checking it before I glue it up. But as you can see, I've cut a notch to fit around this polytune because there was sort of an odd spacing here. But that still leaves a perfect fit for the rat on that little piece right there, like that. The pedal after that is the OD1, and you can see it fits right in there like a glove too, and it's in line with it. And the total height of this will be 1.5 inches. It'll come up just slightly when I dual lock it down because of the thickness. I did the same thing over here. It's probably kind of hard to see, but there's a cutout right here that perfectly fits the depth of the Layla loop switcher. Plus it comes over and meets up with the DD5. It sits here, and it's perfectly cut exactly where it needs to go. That way it fits in there real nice, and still, leaves a lot of room to have access to some things in there. And pull these pedals off, and you can see that it's just I haven't colored it, I haven't blacked it out yet. It's just fresh cut. That's the notch where the little Layla sits. And then these little sleepers here will be the feet that get attached, glued to the bottom. So I'll just Gorilla Glue those on there and clamp them down until they dry, and they'll never come off again. So I've got a foot for each side, and I'm probably going to do one up the middle too. So All right, I'll have to glue those down and color this, and then when we come back, we'll start putting pedals down on this riser. All right, here's the completed and assembled riser. It's got the 3 feet on it. I offset them in a little bit to give me just a little bit more room if I'm going to run cable around there or not. And I've got one coat of color on the edges. I'll probably go another to make that a little darker. So now it's just a matter of getting a good lineup on this and getting it stuck down with the dual lock. And how I'll put this riser down is I'll use 1-inch squares again of dual lock, and I'll do probably 2, 3, 4, and probably actually in the center too, to lock this down, and it'll be on there really good at that point. So that's my next task, is to get that stuck down. And of course, being that it's sort of floating in the middle of the board, you need to have a good precision ruler to get this thing lined up in there so it's nice and straight. Also, the fact that I've got it 1 inch shorter than the width of the board on both sides allows a good place for your fingers to go when you go to pick the board up with these handles. So that works out real good. So I'm going to set this in place, and then after that I'll continue with putting the pedals down on it. So I've just got all this, all the dual lock on the risers heated up, and I'm gonna now put it down on the pedal board. And as you can see, I've got these bits of blue painter's tape to help guide me into the right alignment on it. And hopefully I'll be able to hit that. And kind of, if you do one corner then the other, kind of about the best way to do it. Before I stick it down, I'll just measure, see how close I am. It's pretty darn good. Yep. Yeah, that looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and press it in there. Okay, that's the riser dual locked into place now. So now we can continue to put pedals on here and get our exact positioning, and then after that we'll start some more wiring. I've actually already begun a little wiring here and there, but yeah, after I stick these down, and some of the back row we'll start wiring a lot more. And I like to stick all my pedals down first, and then pop them back up actually to do the wiring, because I like to get my exact placements down. It just makes the wiring a little neater. So when we do the DC, we'll have to pop this riser and everything back off.
Okay, I've got all the pedals stuck on the second row riser, so now I'm just having a look at my back row layout. I was actually saving some decisions till now about exactly where we're going to put the pedal trains at, the pedal powers at, because mostly related to this big AC, right angle AC adapter that I've got to use on this build. If I line the pedal powers up with this rail, I'm going to have this thing sticking over quite a bit. It's just outside the board, which I really don't like. And what will happen here is basically I'll, in my snake coming from my power conditioner in my backline rack, there's AC power, and it will come around and plug in right here. And then I'll plug in the second PP2 Plus with this AC jumper that goes over there, which is what this is. This has a straight on it though. So I've got this this right angle power cord here that I think I'm just going to butcher this thing and just sacrifice it to my pedal board here and just wire it into this plug, which kind of, if I line that up on the rail, it sticks over too. Kind of what I'm thinking is maybe just coming back just a little bit with both of them, and they will both stick over a bit, but until I can find something flatter, I'll just have to work with it. And when I do find something better for this, it's an easy fix to just pop it off and redo the dual lock. It's no big deal. As long as I'm leaving myself enough space up front here to route power and audio cables, which it looks like I am. I've got plenty space up there, so it shouldn't be that big a deal. If I had to pop them off later to find a better solution, but I think this is just going to have to be a compromise right now, and it's just going to stick over a little bit, but not too worried about that actually. Okay, so I think I'm ready to actually go ahead and position this back row. And as soon as that's stuck down, then we can start cabling and probably start with the audio cabling and then do the DC. Okay, we've got all the pedals attached to the board now. I've actually begun some of the signal wiring already. Some of the pedals I've popped them back up already to do some of the wiring. So now I'm gonna show you how I do the wiring layout for signal wiring. I'm going to start with I've got to run a cable out of the BYOC vibrato here. It's going to go down along the trough back here, then pop up next to this white signal cable here and go into the input of the carbon copy. Now, so we have to determine exactly what this length of cable is here, and what I like to do is I just use one of these long Voodoo Labs power cables is just I don't know, a way to mark the length of what this audio cable needs to be. This is just a good small flexible cable to measure, kind of use as a measuring device. So I'll just put it in the jack here and kind of position the pedal where it's gonna land. And you want to try to be fairly accurate with how you're gonna run this cable. So you need to push it down pretty much exactly where you want it to go. So I want it to be flat on the riser, Then I want it to drop down and be flat on the surface of the board itself. So something like that right there. Then I'm going to go over towards my vibrato. So yeah, it looks pretty good. Like I said, you want to be fairly accurate with how you're placing this cable. I'm just going to come down this way, and then I'll turn into the connector here. Okay, so that's pretty much going to be the cable run right there. So I've got my fingers on it, and I'm holding that to mark the length, and I'll just pull this out and see. I need a cable. I need a cable that's that long, which is much longer than my ruler, so I'll go to something bigger here. Let's try to see what this is. Maybe 13 and a half inches of length on that. Alright, what you're looking at here is you're looking at the side of the pedal board now. I've popped the riser off. I've pretty much finished all of my signal cabling, and I actually play tested that as best I could already. Sounded fine first go. It's good, so I'm going ahead and starting to work on the DC now. I don't want to lock anything down yet. I looked through, how I've got to assemble this with, I got 2 DC cable runs, and then I've got sort of 2 grouping, or actually 3 groupings of audio. I've got the front row, the middle, and the back. And of those, like 5 different sort of cable bundles I have to do, I decided that this right here should be the first, the DC, because it's going to be lowest and things are going to have to cross over it. So I'm going to address this first. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to power these front row pedals off 1 through 4. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 to the tuner. Excuse me, not the tuner, but the loop switcher. You can't see it over here, but in that row, and then second row will be on the second PP2 Plus. It will be a total of the 5 pedals that are on the riser plus the tuner back here, so it'll have 6 on it. And then I'll also power the DOD and the MIDI mouse that goes on top of this off of this this PP2 Plus here. So what I've got to do now is I'm going to run these cables down to this, underneath this vibrato pedal, and then I'm going to curl and go this way, and I'm going to feed each pedal power as I go down. Plus I've also the ones like that's going to feed the DOD here, I've got to get them under the PP2 and flow it this way and let it poke out and come around and plug in. Same thing kind of for the MIDI mouse. And also at this point I will have to, when I pop the PP2 Plus off of here, I'll have to set my dip switches on the bottom to make sure that I'm providing the correct voltages. I mean, most things here are 9 volt except for this Boss CS2, which of course is 12 volt ACA. So I've got it on 3 on the ACA output, so I need to make sure that my 3 dip switch is switched over to 12 volts to run that. And that's it. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be back after I do that. Okay, our first little tip for DC pedal wiring. as I'm sure I've already mentioned it, that I like to use just factory made Voodoo Lab DC power cables. I will occasionally use custom cables, or actually cut these down to lengths and put an end on them to make them an actual custom fit length on there. But when you do that, you're inviting reliability issues, and you're also inviting some noise issues if you don't make really good solder joints in these cables. So I tend to try to use just the factory ones because I think they're better. If I do put an end on, I use this kind of an end for 2.1 millimeter. This is just a straight plug, straight into the PP2 Plus like that. I mean, they look good lined up here straight like that. And the reason I prefer to use these is because these are really the only ones that solder good. This shell will screw off, and it's very similar to a 1/4 inch audio plug in there where you solder to. I do not like to use any of the right angle soldered ends. They kind of they really suck, if you ask me. They're just not built well. They don't fit right or anything. So I'll occasionally use these at the power supply side, but I much prefer to use just a factory cable. So you might be wondering how you use a stock length factory cable and make it fit right and look good on a custom wired board. Well, I'm going to show you the tip here. You can see I've got this cable plugged in number 4, which is obviously running under the pedal power, and it's coming this way, and you can see it right there. It's running over to this DOD and powering that. So where's the slack? Well, it's pretty obvious where it is. It's right there. It's just slacked under each pedal. So when I run down to the front row here, for example, I'll just come this way with all my power cables, and they'll break and go that way under the pedals, but each one the slack will be rolled under here. It'll come out, power the pedal. The next cable comes down and its slack is rolled under it. It pops out and powers the pedal, and so on and so forth. And that's the way you can use just a bog standard Voodoo Labs factory cable and not have to worry about doing any custom wiring on it. And personally, I think it helps reliability, and it helps to keep noise down myself. So that's what I do on most of my boards. But I will custom wire if people want to do it that way, or it's just too complicated, or in fact too far to run something like that. Then you've got to custom wire it, obviously. All right, I've reached the step where I'm going to need to use my first zip tie mounts. I'm going to put them along this cable run here, and I've got a ruler here, and I just use it. Butted up against the aluminum U-channel surround to keep it straight, and that's a good place or a good way to sort of make sure they all go in a row when you set them down. I've got another tip for you. These are, by the way, they're 1-inch square zip tie mounts. They call them mounting bases. This commercial electric brand, I think, is either at Home Depot or Lowe's. These actually stick really, really good to pedal boards. If you want, you can drive a screw through the middle and actually screw it into the surface of the board. But I only do that if I know that it needs to really be locked down good permanently. Otherwise, I just go with the mounts. Yeah, here's a little tip. The mounts have sort of white foam that you can see. Just get yourself a Sharpie and run it down along these edges like that, and turn that little white bit of foam black. Helps it blend into the pedal board more than you can do the little center doohick there. Alright. And the way I usually set these down is with a pair of needle nose. Let's get this off here. I typically don't heat them up or anything, but I'm going to place my first one right here at this 10-inch mark because I know that that's going to be right into the riser, so it's a good place to conceal it. So I'll just go right there. Alright, and then I'll run a zip tie through there. And for most of these, I'll use the little zip ties here, which I think these may be called T18s or something like that. I'm not actually sure what the size of these are. Oh, it's 0.1 inch by 4 inch. I just call them small zip ties. Yeah, I'll run that in here across that way, and then try to lay my cables out in order. And you can just get 4. If you can kind of see that, you can just get 4 right on top of the mount, so you can keep 4 side by side down some mounts. After that, you'll have to start stacking them. And what I like to do is just rig these things temporarily. I'll just do that so it's closed, but there's still a gap, and I can get other cables in there if I have to, but it kind of keeps them where I want to run them at. And also, if I have to move it, it's easier to move. And then whenever I'm ready to lock it down, I'll just make it nice and neat and tighten it up. Alright, I've got all the signal cables pulled out here because I want to give you a clear idea of what's happening. I've got the run from the PB2 Plus coming down here. It's a little haywire looking, but when I go to zip tie it down, it will be really nice and straight, right? And then, as you can see, as it comes into the pedal here, there's one that loops out and plugs in to this pedal, and then they run down and they each individually loop out and go to their own pedals, finally with the last one coming out here and going in to this AB tuner switcher. Now, if I unplug these, you'll see really quickly what I've done here. Alright, so there's the first lead. That's the next lead peeling off. There's the third lead with its slack taken up, peeling off. And here's the last lead. I didn't have enough to actually coil it, so I had to sort of tie it in with this one. So essentially what I've done is I've just built a loom out of this. Generally I use black E-tape to do that with. I just think this will show it better for you. And you can also use small zip ties, this size that you use on here, you can also zip tie these down with, but I find that the E-tape actually works really well at keeping everything flat, and has less bulk to it, and it lasts it lasts long enough for this job. So yeah, that's how you sort of hide your slack going across here. So I'm going to get this all wired in and trussed up real good and nice looking, and then we'll continue with wiring up DC on the riser. Cool. All right, here's another look further down the line. I've got the front row is entirely wired now to this PP2 Plus. The second row on the riser, I'm powering off the second PP2 Plus here. It feeds out, and it does the same thing with cables peeling off for the different pedals. And I've got the exact length I need to reach here and there, and then I've got these two leads is what I'm working on now, is this area. This powers the rat up there. This other lead comes down and goes under the polytune and powers it, and that finishes that out. So pretty much finished with all the DC right now. The next step is to put the riser back on, and then I've got to do my signal cabling to this patch box, because everything has to run from the little Layla loop switcher, which is on the left here. So I've got to run some cable down along the trough here and go in and out of this loop switcher, and plus it's got to go through, the return signal has to go through this DOD also. So I'm going to go ahead and do that signal wiring, and that's probably going to finish it up. I'll just lock it all down after that and double check everything. But I'm sure I'll pop in on the way and show you how the final wiring for the insert box goes. All right, I've got my last bit of signal wiring in here from the loop switch to the patch box. I did actually go ahead and hook this up with the guitar and amp just to make sure everything was functioning, and it is functioning fine. I will do a follow-up video after this and show the completed board and some sounds and everything. Right now I just want to get it completed. I still got to get this jumper cable that's going to jump from this PP2 Plus into this one. I'm going to actually use a bit of a right angle plug here and put this end on it and make a nice little short jumper here for that. And I also need to go ahead and mount the MIDI mouse down, and then after that I will finally go through and lead dress all of this wiring and make it look real nice and everything. And that's what I'm going to do right now, and I'll check in after I do that. The idea here, as far as delivering AC power to the whole board, is that I have a power conditioner in my rack in the back line that everything plugs into. The two rack effects, the pedal board, the amp, everything plugs into that one power conditioner in the back line, and then that of course is plugged in house power, and that gives me a single ground point, which greatly helps out with the noise and stuff. Is it's just having a single power ground point. So that's how I do that. What I do is on my snake coming from my rack, there's AC power, and it comes down and goes into this IEC inlet here, and then I simply jump out of the accessory on this PP2 Plus and go into this one. On the previous board I used this cable here with this end, and I would jump out of there and into the other one, which is at that time further down. And also my power supplies were recessed into the board more, so this made more sense. Kind of doesn't make a lot of sense now because it sticks out and everything. So what I have is I have this IEC power cord that I got, and this is just like a, I don't know, it's a 4 or 6 foot IEC power cord that has a right angle on it, and it is going to be the new part of the jumper cord. It's going to go in there, and then I will bring it down below these access points so you can still get to them, and come across here, then go into this this AC connector. So it'll make a nice little you know, custom fit cord here. And this this AC connector is just, will work with any cable. It's just screwed on there. Okay, so you can see how this has a back shell sort of thing, and then here's the internals of it, and it's just uses screw terminals like any other Hubble plug would. It just kind of does a right angle. Yeah, it works pretty good. It's bulky, but it does actually work pretty good. So I'm just going to cut this other cable here, this right angle, to the proper length and wire that up and have a good solution for jumping AC power around on this board. And here is that right angle power adapter. After I've made it here, it goes in like that, and this will just tuck away down there, and we'll get a little something to secure that right there, and that's done. Alright, now we'll continue with doing the lead dress on all this signal cable wiring down in here. That's kind of, yeah, all this stuff is kind of messy down in here. We're gonna make that look good. Well, as you can see, that's where the 120 volt AC goes in to power the whole thing. And for all intents and purposes, I'm going to call this board done. There are a few little things I need to do. Like I still need to wire the B output on the true bypass switcher, which will come down here and go into the bypass in, which is also the bypass out that goes to second channel in the amp. And I also need to, I've got this other cable for tap tempo right now. I was going to use a cable like that, but I didn't really have a pre-made one that fits. So, and I also didn't like the fact that it's black. Since I use this white cable, I think I'm going to make this in white also. So basically, I'm waiting for more connectors to come in the mail from Lava to make up those other little connections. But those are really the final things to do. I'm gonna probably across the front of the power supplies here, I'm gonna label what the outputs are going to, what pedals. I actually mounted this Minnie Mouse back a little bit so I could still see the numbers on there. So if I put a label right across the face, it'll be easy to read what's what. And yeah, I got my, labeled the guitar inputs on the rail. And if you look back here, you can see there's the wiring of the switcher, the Layla here. Goes through that FX10. I did play test this for a little bit just a while ago, and fired right up. No problems with anything. That FX10, man, that pedal, man, that thing just makes your sound so fat. It's just awesome. It's a great pedal. Especially after coming out of the effects rack, it just really fattens things up. But yeah. So we're looking at, I'll clean up some of this wiring. Actually, when I put the new tap tempo in there, I'll go ahead and I'll lock down and clean up some of this through here, make this look a little better. And stuff, but yeah, for the purposes of this how-to series and checking out this build, I'm gonna have to call this done because this video has just gone on way too long. I will, I guess, have to do a follow-up video where I show the very, very, very final assembled board and do some play testing so you can hear what it actually sounds like. It sounds really good. If you look at the back here. Alright, so yeah, we're just going to have to call this one done for right now. And I hope you learned a few things from these series of videos. I know they're crazy long, but I don't know, I just had either a lot to say or I just ramble. I don't know. Alright, thanks for watching, and be sure and subscribe. Thumbs up the video, and if you have any questions, just leave them below, and I will do my best to answer any questions you have. Alright, see you next time.